Okay, so this is probably gonna be a bit embarrassing, but let's do it anyway. Hey, fellow runners, welcome back to the Runner's Bible Beginner Edition, a series for all beginner runners who want to approach running but feel a bit lost and need some guidance. So today I'm here to share with you something a bit less glamorous, which is the main mistakes that I used to do as a beginner runner. I circle back in my 15 years long experience, now also with a run coaching approach, and I detected 6 main mistakes that I think are crucial to share with you. So if you're keen on knowing more about them, stay here because we're gonna unveil them. Beginner mistake number 1, neglecting runners' routines. I made a video specific on that, so if you wanna see it, there it is. Radar runners' routines. Shortly, warm up, cool down, stretches, and eventually mobility. So if you're skipping, for example, your warm up, you're increasing a lot your chance to get soon injured. The same goes for stretching, mobility, and of course, strength. So make sure to never skip those routines. It just takes a couple minutes more, 5 to 10 for each routine, and as soon as you start being consistent with them, it's gonna be a total no-brainer to just do your warm-up and then start running and then stretching, doing some strength and mobility. Beginner's mistake number 2, skipping your rest days. I know there's a sort of bias that the more you do, the better you'll get at it, which is to a certain extent true. But if you don't give your muscles the time to repair from a workout, how can they be ready for the next one and, be at their best to do that? Make sure, fellow runner, to not skip your rest days and take it as seriously as your workout. I promise it's gonna pay off in the long term. Because recovery is part of your training, and if you haven't seen my video about how to structure your training plan, there it is. You can find some inspo on how to balance your training in order to get stronger but also not get injured. Beginner mistake number 3, using poor running shoes or even not doing shoe rotation. Shoe rotation has been such a game changer for me, so make sure, fellow runner, to have at least 2 pair of running shoes which aren't too worn out. The rule of thumb is to change your running shoes every 800/1000 kilometers. Of course, it can vary from a pair to another, but actually I think you can even really sense it when a pair of running shoes is really worn out. You can even see it in your sole because it's gonna be really consumed. So make sure, fellow runners, to not underestimate the importance of running shoes and shoe rotation. Beginner's mistake number 4. I actually think about this one that even more advanced runners still do it: rushing things. It is completely normal, especially at the beginning of your running journey, to feel that adrenaline rush, those endorphins, and to be so impatient about your next goal, your next race, whatever it may be. But sometimes it really pays off to set SMART goals, where SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And here I have the perfect example coming from my experience. I ran my first marathon at 19 years old on a whim, just because I was so excited, curious, and impatient to try the marathon experience. And I couldn't even do it because I was too young, so I just kind of lurked in the marathon without a registration. I finished the marathon, but I was really broken and somehow my body wasn't ready for it. I didn't even have a nutrition strategy, no strategy at all, so completely random. And the same went for my second one a couple years later. Now I know that my third marathon is gonna be my wisdom marathon. Still waiting for it because I'm taking it very seriously indeed now. Thing is, if you are a beginner runner, it's different than being a pro and just improvising something on a whim, because your body is ready for that, you're prepared athletically. But for a recreational runner, especially a beginner, it can be really risky to just improvise, especially something like from a 5K to a marathon in, I don't know, 3 months. Be very careful. Unless you don't have already a very good athletic base and you're just a beginner new to running but already very sporty, just set measurable goals and maybe even get a coach and work on that, but give yourself time. One of the most beautiful things about running is that it really teaches you the value of patience, and it always pays off. Beginner's mistake number 5: running always the same. What do I mean by that? It's just about randomly going out and running at whatever pace, depending on your mood or I don't know, whatever else, but just always training the same without a structure or, some kind of reasoning. This is what is technically called empty miles, meaning you're just running without purpose and without a structure. So if you're just running for fun, pleasure, to boost your mood, and just take it very lightly, it's fine. Thing is that on a long-term basis, it can not only affect your motivation, but even lower your performance if you aim at improving a little bit. Because again, here the rule is not the more you run, the better you get, but the smarter you run, the better you get. So pay attention to variety, to structure, and try not to run always the same kilometers and pace every time, but aim for something different. It will give you a little bit of spark and keep your running journey always interesting. Okay, so now we come to the 6th and the last beginner runner mistake. This is a huge one, and I'm super guilty about that. It's nutrition. I'm no expert about it, but I just experienced on my skin how important it is to be at least a little bit aware of the general rules. And when we talk about nutrition, we have 2 big distinctions to make: the during and the before or after. So I'm just a run coach, I'm no nutritionist, but I wanna really point out how important it is to inform yourself, and even better if you can, to have a nutritionist by your side who advises you and who also is there when you're testing, because we're all different. Maybe you heard of that pro runner friend who is fine with no energy gels for a whole half marathon. Nice for him or her, but that's not probably working for you. You have to try it yourself and experiment. And my personal suggestion is better to be equipped than not equipped at all. So when in doubt, in your longer runs, always have an energy gel with you or some water, because you never know if you're gonna need it more on that day. We're talking, of course, here more about longer distances. So pay attention to where you're at right now and don't underestimate the nutrition during your longer runs. Now let's talk about all the rest, so how your nutrition is the days before a race, but also in general. And in there, again, I'm no expert, but it's very important that you pay attention to what you eat, how it makes you feel when you're running, because there are certain foods that are maybe not the best to eat before a run or an intense workout. For example, eating particularly fatty foods before your races or intense workouts is in general not a good idea. On the other hand, having a good carb loading the day before a half marathon or a marathon, for example, is a good idea. But again, I'm not expert on that. I just heartily recommend you to inform yourself well, to test it, and to take into consideration only information from trusted sources like a nutritionist or official websites about nutrition and health. Having a good nutrition is really gonna boost your performance. If you talk to someone expert on that, it's even the half of your performance nutrition. The rest is training, but lifestyle, including, of course, nutrition, is super important. So really makes a difference to have those calories, because food is your fuel to the runners. It's not an enemy. It's your friend to help you run full of energy, to feel good. You should feel good. That's just it in the end. Feeling good. So, fellow runners, did I forget about some typical beginner runners' mistakes? Let me know it down there in the comments. I hope that by sharing them, you either found some inspiration or felt less alone, because We all do mistakes, and if we won't do them, it wouldn't mean we are learning and therefore growing. So don't worry at all. Put a like to this video if you appreciate it, subscribe to this channel to stay updated, and I'll see you in the next episode.